Now this is a true Ryzen moment for AMD GPUs, just like Zen 2 when AMD gained parity with Intel in single core performance, and they were the same, and before they just shot past them with the 5000 series. This is the 3000 series Zen 2 moment for the AMD 9000 series GPUs. So how did it even start? This GPU, the 9070 XT, was the first GPU of AMD, which is the flagship of AMD GPUs right now, to launch. It launched back in March, and it launched 5% slower than Nvidia RTX 5070 Ti, which was the direct competitor to it. In ray tracing, it was like almost like 10% or something, 11-12% around that. But like in general computing and like in general gaming and stuff like that, it was around 5% to 6%. And also, Hardware Unboxed did actually manage to have it tested when it launched. They're the best. Hardware Unboxed, they're the best. They have like the best videos out there for like anything gaming related testing, and they also found that it was like around 6% slower, right? 5 to 6% slower. So AMD did not really lie. They just came out and said it straight how it is. It did not oversell the GPU, did not lie about the GPU's performance. They showed graphs, and those graphs turned out to be true. And right now, these GPUs actually beat Nvidia's GPUs in performance 6%. With driver updates, both GPUs, the RX 9070 and the 9070 XE, and also 9060 XE is also now faster than the RTX 5060 Ti, but not by 6%. It was never like slower by 6% to begin with. Like, they just like now faster just a little bit. But these GPUs right now went from slower, 6% slower than the RTX 50 series GPUs to 6% faster than the RTX 5060 GPUs. And this is with latest games, you can see, because it's with the latest drivers. And this is Borderlands. You're gonna say, okay, this is Borderlands, it's an Unreal Engine 5 game. Probably Unreal Engine 5 prefers the architecture of AMD GPUs. But just look at it. This is a broken game anyway. This game is not optimized. This game, if it's gonna favor anything, it's not going to favor anything. If it favors anything, it's not going to favor anything. It's actually beating the RTX 5080, not just the 5070 Ti. And we see like the 5080 being beaten by the RTX 4080 Super and 4080 regular. So there's something wrong with this game. But also, you can see right now the RX 9060 XT is faster than the RTX 5060 Ti, not by 6%, but around like 5 to like 4%, probably, like in average gaming. And not just Silent Hill, also I mean, not just Borderlands, there's also Silent Hill F that actually beats the both GPUs beat the RTX GPUs in performance. As you can see right now, this is the RTX 5060 Ti being beaten by the RX 9060 XT 8GB. I don't know why they tested 8GB in this like extended like with upscaling thing. I don't know why they did that, but hey, this is Tech Power Up charts, so I'm just gonna... I think they're both the same performance loss, like between Nvidia and AMD, but hey, this is their testing. So, and also the RTX 5070 Ti at 1440p is being beaten by the RX 9070 XT, and not just on 1440p, even at 4K and 1080p, in every resolution, like basically every resolution. If they are not exactly the same, they're gonna be losing to the RX 9000 series from AMD. And this is not just, you're gonna say like, okay, these are two Unreal Engine 5 games, and they both probably prefer AMD's architecture in the new, you know, stuff from AMD. But this is also with other older games. This is like a ray tracing title, and it's also an Nvidia ad of a game. This game promotes Nvidia hardware, right? It's not like, it's actually favoring Nvidia. Like probably they did something with the code to actually make the RX GPUs perform worse, and it went from, you know, it was like 113 to 122, and now it's tied with driver updates. And also in 4K, same story. Cyberpunk, and again, this is another ad for Nvidia, and it went from like tied to now it's beating the Nvidia RTX 5070 Ti. And Spider-Man is the biggest uplift that has been seen from with the Hardware Unboxed testing, and this is like big. Like he went like from losing to not just winning. It was like shooting really past the RTX GPU in performance in Spider-Man in 1440p, and same with 4K. But in 1440p is like, because this is what these GPUs are targeting, is it saw a bigger uplift. And when they calculated, they found like a 27% improvement to how it was doing before. And also Hogwarts Legacy, same story. It was barely, you know, tied. It was winning before, but it wasn't a big win. Now it's a big win. Like the RTX GPU still the same performance, but the RX 9000 series was like shot past the RTX GPUs. And also in 4K, not a bigger win, but it's still a win. And when they did like their average, they found this like 9% improvement over the launch drivers. And also the RTX GPU got a little bit of improvement, but it's also only 2.5%. It's not a big improvement. Okay, so now that we established that the RTX 5070 Ti is 6% slower than the RX 9070 XE, these names just roll off the tongue. And let's just look at the on-paper specs. So the RTX 5070 Ti is faster. Like, I mean, it's has a bigger die. It's 378 compared to the RX 9070 XT, which is 357 millimeters squared. Also, it uses GDDR7 memory, which is a fucking the latest note in memory, in graphics memory, and like blistering fast, and has like very bigger bandwidth. And the RX 9070 XC only uses GDDR6 memory instead of GDDR7 RAM, and has like way inferior specs all over. Like on paper, like this should be like not even comparable. Let's say this is cores, right? Let's say this is like memory. Let's look at the cores. The RTX 5070 Ti has 8,960 cores, while the RX 9070 XT has a 4,096. It looks like it was 69, but it doesn't go like that. It goes like 256 and like 512 and 1,024, just like gigabytes. That's how the core uplift goes. And on paper, as you can see, the RTX 5070 Ti should be faster than the RX 9070 XT, but it's not. It's actually the architecture differences and stuff like that makes it not that. It's just like makes it not that. And actually right now it's 6% slower than the RX 9070 XT. So this makes you wonder. So the specs are less on the left side, which is the AMD GPU, but is like way more cores, way faster memory, and like latest everything on the Nvidia side, but they are losing. So could AMD have made a GPU that could have beaten the RTX 5090? Let's say just tied with the 5090. So let's just look at it on the Nvidia side first. So let's take the 5070 Ti as a baseline, so as 100%. The RTX 5090 is 75% faster right now, as you can see. 74, but let's round up. Like, not gonna say 74, we're gonna say 75. And how many cores does this 5090 has? The 5090 has 21,760 CUDA cores, which is triple, or almost triple, the count of cores, which is RT cores and tensor cores and everything. And it's not really triple the amount of performance. Let's just get like an exact number. So let's divide 21. I don't know why it's zooming right there. Let's divide 21,760 by 8,960, which is like 2.5%. So not 2.5%, 2.5 times the core uplift, or like more cores than the RTX 5070 Ti, but only 74% or 75% faster. So this is when you see like the diminishing returns with like how many CUDA cores you can add before you start, you know, hitting that ceiling. And also the overhead with Nvidia GPUs, the overhead is just killing them right now. And Hardware Unboxed and Tom from Moore's Law is dead. They say that there's like a physical flaw like in the architecture of Nvidia that they have to just get over and change the architecture and like move on like from this shit show, because it's gonna get them next generation. They have like a hardware flaw.
They can. I'm just thinking.
I mean, they would have to do what AMD did, a hardware solution that isn't in the previous generations. It's like, yeah, and there it is. You have to be below 60 frames to not have the CPU overhead issue affecting this.
But right now, because these GPUs are out already, it's only 75% because diminishing returns and hardware, you know, flaw, all that. So let's just go and look at the same exact thing but with AMD GPUs. So AMD GPUs, let's go look at the RX 9070 non-XT, which is slower, but let's see how it's 12% slower. Okay, so it's not that bad. It's 12% slower and has 3,584 cores. Let's do the same calculation as we saw like right here with the RTX GPU. The flagship has like 3%. 2.5 times the cores, but only 75% amount of the performance. Let's do the same calculation. Let's divide 4,096 by 3,584. It's 14%. So there's like a 2% deficit between the core count uplift and the performance uplift in AMD GPUs. And also with that goes like, for example, if we add like another layer of cores, it's gonna probably go like to 15% more up, deficit or something like that. So let's just call it, this one is 15% and this one is only 10% performance uplift. So we see now that the core uplift with AMD is not as severely bad as the RTX GPUs, because RTX GPUs went like 3 times and only like 74% of the performance, but this one went like only 14% and it was like matching like 12%. And 2% deficit is like nothing. For example, 2% deficit in performance is nothing. For example, you can take 2 GPUs out of the shelf, same GPUs, and just take them out of the shelf, plop them in the same kind of fucking bench test, and one of them is going to be 2% faster, or like even sometimes 3% faster than the other one, and then vice versa. Sometimes the other one is going to be faster than the other one. It's going to be like a whole jumble, but they are the same GPU. And 2%, as I said, is not a really big thing, but let's say this is only 10% and this is 15% improvement like in core count, compared to the performance uplift. Right now, if we do the same calculation to see if they gave it a little bit more, for example, if they did, for example, like a 400mm squared die, and they gave it like, for example, 6,000, because it goes like 256, 512 cores, 1,024 more cores, just like gigabytes. Let's say they gave it 2 more layers of core uplift. Let's say 1,044. Let's say 1,044, like 2 gigabytes. I'm just kidding, not 2 gigabytes. It's core count. Core count goes the same as well as like gigabytes count, but it's funny kind of way. But hey, that's what it is. And let's divide it by 4,000, not 2,000. Why am I typing 2? 4,096. So this is 1.5 times the performance. Let's make that 2% deficit. Let's make it 5%. So this is going to be 1.45. And let's go look at the so the 5080 RTX 5080 is only 20% faster. Let's say 30% faster than the RX 9070. It would have beaten that. It would have beaten that in rasterization and matched it in ray tracing. It would have easily beaten that. Not even double the performance, double the cores or anything. Not even the amount of cores that the RTX 5080 has. Only 6,144, and it would have easily beaten that with a bigger die, a slightly bigger die, not too much. 1.5 more. The compute units was like, it's gonna be like 30 more compute units, and they could have beaten it. They could have easily beaten it. What about the 5090? Let's say they doubled it, right? Let's say they went from they doubled it, it's gonna be 2. I'm not gonna have to do this calculation. If they doubled it, it's gonna be 2. So how fast is the 5090 compared to the RX? It's 98, not 28. It's 98. I mean, 82%. I'm getting these numbers. English is not my first language, so I'm getting these numbers jumbled. So it's 82% faster than the RX 9070 XT. And if we double the amount of this, it's not gonna result directly in like double the performance, because we saw that there's like a 2% deficit, and it's gonna grow the amount of cores. The more amount of cores that there is, the more the deficit is gonna grow. Let's say it's doubled and it's actually like 15% deficit. It's not only 2% now, and now it's like 15% deficit. Only double the cores, like from 4,096 to like 8,182. Right, 82, and 15% less. It's gonna they can have like match the 5090 in the performance. They would have lost in ray tracing, of course, because like it's 10% faster in like with the RTX GPUs right now, like 15% faster. But they would have matched it in rasterized performance, like gaming. For people that don't really care about the fucking ray tracing, it would have fucking matched it, like 1-to-1 performance. And this is just with a slightly bigger die. For example, it's like they're not gonna have to go like to 750 with the like with the 5090. They're just gonna have to like for example 600 millimeter square or something, because they're not gonna need the exact same core count or like SMU count as the 5090. They're just gonna need double what they already have right now. So they're not gonna need double the die size, and they could have beaten it easily. But AMD said that they're gonna be competing in the mid-range, not. And there's also the rumor about the 9080 XT, I think. I'm not sure if that's true, but they still have like a year and a half until like next generation, so they might drop it like with 24 gigabytes of memory and stuff like that. And also, not just that, this thing is a thing. AMD right now is actually collaborating with PlayStation to make AMD GPUs way more faster in ray tracing. Of course, they're not, looking at the rasterized performance. They actually doing, but it's not gonna be like their main focus. The main focus is actually path tracing, and they want to make path tracing as easy as traditional ray tracing for AMD GPUs. And this is not just for the PlayStations. This is a collaboration between the two. So whatever they put in the PlayStation, they're gonna put in their GPUs as well, and in the next generation. And the next generation, Tom from Moore's Law is Dead. That guy, he does get leaks, like pretty accurate, spot on. He said it's gonna be like between 190 compute units to 210 compute units from AMD next generation. And if Nvidia does not fix the fucking hardware, soft spot that they have with the CPU driver overhead, they're gonna lose. They definitely going to lose in the top end, and AMD right now is actually doing the top end next generation.
Well, then it's going to become with like Intel with their ring bus, where it holds back all of their designs, and they just need to move beyond it eventually. I mean, I'm sorry, like the AT0 and RDNA 5 goes to, I think, up to like 192 or 200 or whatever compute units from 64 and RDNA 4. They're going to crush the 6090. And there's, we went from 1080p to 1440p, and that bailed them out. And then we went to 4K, and that bailed them out. They tried to bail out Ampere by saying you should game in 8K. No one bought 8K displays.
And they did not win just in gaming performance and hardware performance in general, but they also won in sales this generation. And there's gonna be some NPC in the comments saying, oh, they have 4% market share in the no, look at this bestsellers list in Newegg. This is the US market, and like 7 out of 10 top 10 7 out of them are AMD GPUs this generation. And here's Mindfactory GPU sales data. They sold 470 RX 9070 XT compared to 5070 Ti only sold 125. This is 4-to-1. They would sell 4 GPUs of the RX 9000 series, specifically the RX 9070 XT, before they would sell one 5070 Ti. And also, same with the 9060 XT. They sold 2-to-1. Well, I would say 1.8-to-1, which is 2-to-1, compared to the RTX 5060 Ti. So we got the sales from the US, where I am right now, and where Mindfactory is Europe. So how about Australia? Let's go back to our trusty hardware unboxed guys, Steve and Tim.
So if retailers told us if they were to sell everything they had in stock, 9070 XTs, if they sold all of those within the first few days, they would have officially sold more 9070 XTs than all Blackwell GPUs to date. So one comparison I asked for was the 9070 XT versus the 5070 Ti. Very interesting comparison. Now, this retailer told me that in the last 6 months, they've sold just over 200% more 9070 XTs than 5070 Ti's. And the last 30 days, they've sold roughly double the Radeon GPU, so 9070 XTs over 5070 Ti's.
So right now, this makes AMD the top dog in the mid-range. This is, as I said, a Zen 2 moment for them. They just did not just get in parity with their Nvidia counterparts, but they actually beat them in performance in gaming and sales. They're still behind in ray tracing, because again, ray tracing, Nvidia does some stuff with ray tracing that AMD is still doing in the shader cores instead of the ray tracing cores, but the next generation is going to be way more stronger. And they're gonna focus on the high end right now, again, not just the mid-range. And now with their partnership in the project Amethyst with the with PlayStation, it's gonna bear some good fruit. So if you like this video, press like. If you dislike it, press dislike. If you find it informative or entertaining, press the subscribe button. That helps the channel a lot. And see you in the next video.